when I created the Asia Pacific Islander Jesse Caucus and in discussing with the orgs, the rise of xenophobia against Asian Americans or just Asians in general due to the COVID-19 pandemic has not been adequately addressed by our own university. And the university as a whole has instead made it upon several departments, including like the Elliott School's Diversity and Inclusion Council, to just hold town halls and spaces for people, but not acknowledge that the university will be there to protect their students, nor condemn the xenophobia that is going on. In addition, we can see throughout history and media that normalized racism against Asians is super prevalent, whether that be the fox eye trend or asking for more intonations, stereotyping characters in media, or even just the general perception of Asians in STEM. And so by promoting an Asian American Studies program, it's kind of clarifying and finding the truth in what the Asian American identity is, especially through the model minority lens and breaking that down. I know ASA has a great hashtag going out right now, which is Asian American history is American history. And we can see that whether that be the first Filipino settlement in Louisiana, or the Japanese internment camps, the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, or even I would say this past presidential election where we had the first Asian American actually reach a presidential ballot or even be considered for one. So the promotion of Asian American studies isn't more just to say, oh, we just want to add more diversity and throw in a bunch of buzzwords, but it is more of a reclamation of identity and truth to the Asian American identity and promoting the voices of those voices that have been oppressed throughout history.
Asian American voices and then their presence. I mean, those are all very important things in the United States, especially. I mean, Asian Americans are very much a growing population. So very soon, it's going to be the largest minority population according to studies. I think the Pew Research Center, they did studies on that. Ever since the pandemic, there's just been a rise in Asian American or rise in anti-Asian sentiment. I mean, the United Nations has even caught eye to that, condemning the kind of racist and xenophobic acts against Asians. I mean, we could even see it in the governmental level. I mean, a lot of politicians have been proposing legislation saying we should, for example, stop international students, particularly from China, thinking that they're spies or stealing American education. I mean, I feel like those kind of ideals, those kind of behaviors and thoughts are because they don't really understand the presence of Asian Americans, and also a very large population of nurses or Filipino nurses, and a lot of them actually died because of the pandemic. So that, I think, just knowing the history of how a lot of the Asian Americans got here, and then just kind of the background of that. I mean, Filipino nurses, they came because there was a shortage in nurse labor in the US, so there's basically importing some labor here. So I mean, that's just a very small sliver of how Asians fit in American history. And I mean, Asian American culture and Asian American identity experience, that is a very unique thing. And I think a lot of students would benefit from learning that. Not just Asian American students, but all students of all kinds of backgrounds would benefit from taking these kinds of courses and really understanding the Asian American experience. And I think if GW can teach that or have that available for students to learn, they'll be leaving this university with that knowledge, at least acknowledging that is a real thing, and that is real experience. And there are real problems as well associated with that.